Talking about the British politicians' measures to avoid downfall by detaching from the EU, it seems that Britain is losing its greatness and cracks on its prestige as a united nation are clearer than ever. Nikolai Melishevsky of Strategic Culture Foundation analyzes the gravity of the situation.
Enkele ogenblikken geleden heb ik afstand gedaan van de troon. Ik ben gelukkig en dankbaar u voor te stellen, uw nieuwe koning, koning Willem-Alexander.
After the abdications of the Pope and the Queen of the Netherlands, more and more people are saying that the Queen of Great Britain might follow their example. In May 2013, it was reported that Elizabeth II has already begun to transfer her powers to her son, Prince Charles. Not long before that, British Cabinet Secretary Gus O'Donnell stated that in the next few years, Britain could encounter enormous problems. For example, whether or not the kingdom will remain united. The opinion that the United Kingdom could fall apart over the next few years and cease to exist as a single state has been circulating very widely. There are many reasons which could together cause the fall of British statehood, and these reasons are quite varied. Separatist tendencies in Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, the Isle of Man, and the County of Cornwall, which has been demanding autonomy, are growing stronger. Alarming demographic tendencies have taken shape. According to statistics, at the beginning of 2013, less than half of London residents were of English background. The British capital, once one of the few monolingual cities of Europe, as a result of immigration has become the most multilingual city on the planet, speaking over 300 languages. London has long since become a centre of international terrorism. According to the US State Department, out of 30 officially recognized terrorist organizations, 10 have official headquarters in London and another 15 conduct major operations and fundraising in the British capital. There are even more economic problems. Great Britain has the second largest external debt in the world, over 9.8 trillion, which is over 435% of the country's GDP. There is a huge £28 billion hole in the state budget. For that reason, in the second half of 2013, the number of those serving in the British Army will be reduced by over 5,000, and by 2015, the number of British military personnel is to be reduced by another 20%. In experts' opinion, if this tendency continues, the British Army will have ceased to exist by 2020. The country is rapidly losing its status as a financial centre. Since the beginning of the 2008 crisis, the banking and financial sector has already lost 132,000 jobs. It is expected that by the end of 2013, another 50,000 jobs in this sector will disappear. It is only possible to appreciate the significance of these figures if you consider that no other country's economy, besides that of Switzerland, depends on the financial system as much as Great Britain's. Bank assets there are equal to 390% of the GDP. Entire industries are disappearing, such as the automotive industry, which once was considered one of the symbols of British might. The English simply sold their famous brands, first to the Americans and the Germans, then to the Chinese and the Indians. Sociological studies recorded an abrupt decline in the financial situation of 1/3 of respondents. Another third of those surveyed believed that in 2013 their situation will not improve and may even get worse. Today, over 5 million British residents are living below the poverty line. According to studies by the auditing company KPMG, the deepest recession in post-war history has led to 5 million people in the United Kingdom, about 20% of those employed, receiving wages lower than the minimum amount required by social standards. The largest percentages are in Northern Ireland and Wales. In absolute figures, the majority of the British poor live in London and in northeastern England. The total number of homeless people rose by 25% in 2012 alone. As of early March 2013, about 1,200 patients had died of hunger in hospitals of the British National Health System over the course of 4 years. The official reason was that the nurses are too busy to feed the patients. In addition, the hospitals of the National Health System have been accused of falsifying the figures to lower the number of patients who died from poor care. The British are more and more obviously taking to drink. Prime Minister David Cameron has likened the rise in alcoholism among the populace to a national disaster. All over the country, a network of drunk tanks are popping up like mushrooms. The institution of the family in the country is rapidly degrading. British teenagers have led Europe in recent decades in antisocial behavior. Statistics confirm that 27% of British, 12% of German, 5% of Italian, and 3% of French teens get drunk regularly. 49% of British, 38% of French and Italian, and 28% of German teens have been in at least one fight during the past year. And 38% of British, 28% of German, 24% of Italian, and 22% of French teens have had early sexual experiences. Debt-stricken British students openly moonlight as prostitutes. Over the last few years, the loan sharks have dragged them so deep into the swamp of consumer credit, interest rates that can be up to 4,000% on a yearly basis, that even the university authorities acknowledge the fact, and, in order to at least somewhat reduce the scale of the disaster, have forbidden the moneylenders to operate on the territory of university campuses.
I think they're disgusting and they rip people off. I think the interest rate's too high. Yeah, it's okay, or you only pay this much back when you pay back, but they're preying on the poorest in the community, really, because it's that, you know, people have got no money, and then it's outrageous.
They're taking advantage of people. They are in financial trouble, or they need money to help them to go by in day-to-day life.
And yet, society is not sounding the alarm. Adults either are no longer able to influence their out-of-control teenagers or are afraid to.